Hello and welcome to my video presentation. Today's topic is childhood regression technique, and this is a step in the energy balancing with faith technique that I teach online. Okay, so I'll tell you more about the energy balancing with faith course later on in this video. But for now, let me start by introducing myself. I am Jade Bolden, and I am passionate about helping spiritually mature women feel more liberated. So no more feeling helpless, no more feeling hopeless. Okay, I hope to help these women have skills to help them feel empowered and then expand their influence. So we start by helping you heal yourself and then be able to turn around and help your children, husband, and family, parents, siblings, and then all of the people that you love. How does that sound? Okay, so if this is you, you are in the right place, my friend. The objective of today's presentation is threefold. Number one, to have skills to resolve your own negative childhood concerns. So we have some positive childhood experiences and we have the not so positive ones too. And in this presentation, I will show you how to resolve the negative ones. Okay, so once you do that and you get this skill down, then you can help others resolve their childhood concerns too. And number three, once we all do this, okay, we'll be able to lead a more full, happy, healthy, and empowered life. Sounds great? All right, let's continue. Now, this is step 8 of the energy balancing with faith technique, okay? But it doesn't matter. You can be able to learn this step now and be able to help yourself and others. This is very important because it helps us identify some trapped emotions and why we have those trapped emotions and be able to resolve it. In our formative years, we view the world and we interpret the world our way. Okay, and sometimes the interpretation is negative and we create destructive patterns in our life and it causes pain and suffering all of our lives. Okay, so it's time to pause and resolve it. Okay, according to leading expert Robert D. Hare, he's a researcher in the field of criminal psychology. He states that half of all serious crimes is committed by psychopaths. Now, I'm not saying that we're all psychopaths, okay? We're not criminals, but his studies prove that what happens in the childhood really affects the rest of our lives, okay? So that's the point. Another expert, Ian Hughes, says, neuroscientists have also shown that the patterns of behavior we experience in early childhood becomes hardwired into our brains and influence how we relate to others throughout our lives. The consequences of poor brain development and adverse childhood experiences can last a lifetime. They can include a lack of empathy, rigidity in beliefs and behaviors, difficulties in relating to others, and the development of a host of disorders of personality. All right, not that we've got lots of disabilities or anything, but there's things that stop us from moving forward, right? There's patterns in your life that you're trying to break through, that you're pushing through with willpower and it's not working, right? There's financial problems, relationship problems, health problems, and sometimes you feel like a kid inside. You feel like you can't, and you feel small and immature, and you just don't like that, right? This is because we have a child inside of us that has issues that haven't been resolved. And maybe some things that happen to that child, or the way that child interprets the world, right, makes him or her feel like she's flawed and she's bad and not good enough. And we need to have closure. We need to resolve some of the concerns that haven't been resolved. All right, it is time. Okay, there's no better time to resolve it. Okay, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable, but you are powerful enough to be able to resolve this. Your heart is strong enough, my friends. Let's stop self-sabotaging, okay? We can learn to be fully accountable for our own choices here on out, okay? So we don't need to continue to chastise ourselves for not being better, okay? We now have a way to resolve it. So I'm excited to share this with you. There's so many experiences in our lives, good and bad. Okay, sometimes as a child you were hit or hurt somehow, okay, and you could have interpreted that situation in your way. Could have been, I'm no good, I'm less than, I deserve punishment, whatever. Okay, so however we interpret it, we'll get an opportunity to resolve it now. If parents fight and you don't feel that security and you don't feel the sense of solid relationship, maybe that affects how you view the world. Everyone is different. It's just how you interpret your life. You may be in the same family and experience the same situation as your siblings, and yet you might experience the situation totally different from your siblings. Okay, so it's us individuals and how we interpret our lives. We might have had loss. You lost a pet, you lost a grandparent, you lost a friend, whether through death or whatever, through moving away. There's so much we can do to help resolve some of these childhood concerns, okay? If you are a doTERRA wholesale member and you use the doTERRA products, you may understand this next part. If you don't have a doTERRA wholesale account, I'll tell you more about that later on, okay? So if you feel drawn to some of the doTERRA children's oils and supplements and other products, then it could be a clue that there's something in the childhood years that need to be resolved. In our formative years, we have limited understanding, so we interpret the world according to our limitations, and that's okay. We can resolve those things now. So if you're drawn to any of these children's oils or supplements, just know that this is an opportunity for you to resolve some of the childhood misinterpretations of the world, perhaps some false beliefs, perhaps. For example, if you're drawn to, say, Tamer, and you just can't get enough of that Tamer, you smell it, you think it's amazing, it's beautiful, use it for your tummy, use it for digestion, okay? But also ask yourself questions like, as a child, do I feel like I'm not smart enough, that I don't understand enough, that I'm, unable to apply ideas and situation? As a child, was I overwhelmed, okay? So explore those things. I have the emotional information about oils and supplements on my website and in my books, okay, my reference guide. So you can go ahead and look those things up if you like. Whatever it can do on the physical side, it can do on the emotional side. For example, if you have an iTovi bioscanner, and if you scan up for the A to Z, the children's chewable vitamins and mineral supplements, the emotion could be a lack of nourishment of love and attention. It could be not feeling lovable, the belief that you are not provided for or taken care of. So if you can muscle test, or if you have an iTovi scanner and you scan up for IQ Mega, for example, you might ask yourself questions like, do I feel like I'm supported? Do I believe that life is ease and flow? Or the opposite, life is hard and complicated and I need to struggle. So then if you identify that, then you can identify the false beliefs to resolve. So I hope that makes sense. So in summary, if you're drawn to the children's oils, or if you feel like you need some of the children's supplements, okay, it is a good idea to maybe look into doing some childhood regression technique on yourself. If your friends are drawn to the children's products, then you might be able to help them do some childhood regression technique as well, okay? Why is the childhood regression technique so important? This is so important because it helps us fully own our power to choose and create. Okay, when we own our power to choose, then we will be able to create more powerfully. As adults, we may have minimalized and suppressed some of the experiences that we had as a child. We may justify it by saying, it's normal, all kids experience that. We don't need to talk about that. Okay, but maybe we do. Because it might help you understand some of your thinking patterns, help you understand yourself better. This technique is so important because it helps us create more self-awareness and self-mastery. We can resolve trapped emotions and rewrite false beliefs. We can increase self-acceptance and self-love. we can increase our faith in and our love for God. It can disrupt the negative patterns in your life from repeating. That would be so good, wouldn't it? And of course, it stops the habit of blaming and allowing you to fully be accountable for your own choices. Okay? If you've watched my videos before, you may be familiar with my belief tree here. So have a look at this tree with me. For those who've not seen this belief tree, let me explain. Our beliefs drive our thoughts, and our thoughts drive our feelings, and our feelings drive our actions, and our actions will create the results of our lives. Okay, but what we can see and recognize are our feelings. Okay, so we know we feel angry, we know we feel frustrated. Okay, and when we feel that way, okay, it compels us to act in a negative way. If you're feeling negative, you want to give up, you want to self-sabotage, you want to pig out, you want to do things that are not good for you. Okay, and then you have these results that you don't like. Okay, so that is on the surface. But sometimes us humans, we don't recognize where those feelings come from. We just act on those feelings, okay, as if those feelings control us. But we don't realize that we created those feelings by how we think and what we believe. Okay, and most of the time, what we think and what we believe is not anchored in God, not anchored in our understanding and our trust in God. So if we change it, if we identify some negative thoughts and beliefs and change it to being anchored in God, anchored in this foundation of God, if you feel unempowered, for example, your thoughts might be, oh, I don't have the skills, I don't know. Okay, and your beliefs could be, I'm on my own, I can't do anything. Okay, so how to change your belief is you can say, with God, I can do anything. And your thoughts can be, God shows me how to whatever. Your thoughts could be, God will show me how to do this. Angels and minions of God is with me. I'm on the winning team. Okay, and then when you feel that way, you feel empowered, you feel powerful. And when you feel powerful, you take the actions that you need to do whatever it is that you need to do. And of course, the results are going to be great. So the fruits of our life will be a clue as to what we're thinking on the inside. Okay, under the surface in the subconscious. Okay, so if we have good fruits, you're healing, you're happier, you have better relationship, those are good fruits. Okay, and then that will tell you that you are on the right path, that you're heading in the right direction. And if you have negative fruit, if you have relationship problems and money problems and all sorts of other problems, then it gives you a clue to go backwards. Okay, see what you're doing, the actions, see why you're doing those things, you know, what the feelings are, okay, and then resolve those thoughts and beliefs. Okay, we have full power in changing our thoughts and our beliefs. So here's how you do the childhood regression technique. First of all, you need to identify whether you need the childhood regression technique today or not. Okay, and once you do, you need to find the age, and once you find the age, then you can start doing the steps. Okay, so if you know how to muscle test, go ahead and ask yourself, do I need to do childhood regression technique? For me, the strong is yes and weak is no. Make sure you recalibrate your muscle testing. So you tell yourself, strong for yes, weak for no, or rocking forward for yes and rocking backwards for no. Okay, if you're going to do the sway test, you can do the pendulum if you want, however you want to do it. Some people are very intuitive. If they feel like, I need to do childhood regression technique, then do it. And then the next step is find the time. Ask yourself, what age do I need to do childhood regression technique for? Okay, and I like to start with prior to conception because we existed before we came to Earth, and so we could have had some issues there. You can ask, is it conception to birth? Because it could be any time in the womb to when you're born. If it's yes for conception to birth, you can ask about the weeks. So is it within the first week, the second week, the third week, fourth? Okay, and you find out that way. Or you can ask, is it the first month, the second month in the womb? A lot of times what happens to mum is experienced by that child as well. So sometimes that child can't tell the difference if it was mum or her or him. If mum was distressed, and if something happened in her life, that child feels it too, and that child is affected by it. Otherwise, you can say, is it from birth to 10 or 1 to 10? Test if it's 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, whatever, up to 10. Or you can say, is it from 11 to 20? I like to break it down in those groups. It makes it easier for me to find it quickly instead of counting 1, 2, 3, all the way to 20. For example, if you identify an age, if you say 4 years old, it could be 3 turning 4 or 4 turning 5. It could be around that age. It doesn't have to be exactly 4 years old. In my training as an educator, I learned that the brain stores information in files. The files are created when we have events, and the events is created when we do something to mark it. So it can be a celebration, it can be a rite, a ritual, or a situation, event that happened in our lives. Okay, a story that you remember. So whatever comes to mind, ask yourself if that's it, because most of the time what comes to mind quickly is what we need to resolve. Okay, so that's how the brain remembers and stores information. So that's why I like to celebrate and mark events so that we can recall information much better. So once you identify the year, it's time to do the 3 steps. And the first step is acknowledge, then address, then appreciate and accept. Appreciation and acceptance is one step. It's the last step. It is the final step. And I feel like this is one of the most important things that people leave out. One of my friends, she tells me that she's been to counseling for 7 months and they just keep talking and talking and talking about her problems, and she never felt any resolutions. Okay, this last step is going to be super important because it brings God into the picture. Okay, and it helps with a lot of closure. I'll tell you more about it in a minute. So let's go through each step and I'll explain what they do. So step 1 is acknowledge. So first of all, sit in a comfortable place, close your eyes, and go back to that age. If you can hug a pillow, hug a pillow. That pillow represents you. You're hugging and you're holding your younger self. Pretend that you're going back in time and you're talking to this child in the past. Talk to this child as if this child was someone else. Talk to this child as if this child is a child. I don't mean talk down to that child. Speak in the loving way that you would speak to a child. When you're speaking to this child, you have empathy for this child. What happened for this child was a big deal. Okay, maybe as an adult you minimalized it, you downplayed it, but what happened to this child, the event, is a big deal. So treat it as a big deal, because for that child that's inside of you, it is still a big deal. Sometimes we don't want to admit it. Maybe we feel embarrassed or ashamed by it, but it's still a big deal. So let that child be heard, let that child have a voice, and let that child speak. When you acknowledge, you're just letting that child speak. What you want to do is ask the child, what are they feeling? And let them have a voice. Let them speak. Even if that child was 2 or in the womb and wouldn't have had the words, you imagine that if that child could speak, what would that child say? Okay, so you can say, what do you feel? Okay, and write it down. Where were you and what were you doing? To help you find that child, you have to ask yourself, where were you and what were you doing? And you might remember where you were and what you were doing, where you were living, okay? And then allow that child to speak freely. That child could feel angry and hurt and resentful and confused and abandoned and offended. This is not the time to say, no, don't be offended because of this. This is not the time for that. Okay, acknowledge that that child had those feelings, okay? Because you're bringing up that energy. You're bringing up all the things that you've suppressed. Okay, I feel hurt. I feel angry. Okay, allow this person to cry. And you might be crying like a mad woman. Okay, it's okay. It's okay to cry. It cleanses the soul because it brings up those emotions and releases them. So bring it up, make it a big deal. Make it important. Let this child have a voice finally. Let this child express himself or herself. Yes, you might need a lot of tissues on hand, but just cry it out, okay? Write what you are feeling, just dump it out, cry it out, write it down, wipe your tears, and keep asking, what else? What else? And ask more questions. Why were you angry? And let yourself say stuff, even if it's dumb, right? Say it. I was hurt because blah, blah, blah. I was resentful. I felt confused because da, 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 da. Okay? Explore it until you cry it all out. And then the adult side of you will come in and address it. Okay? Well, you know, you were angry because of this, but now can you see da 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 da? Okay? You can write to yourself, well, I was angry, but now I see this. I was hurt because of this and this, but now I see. I was resentful, but now I see. Okay, I was confused because blah blah blah, but now I see. I was offended because of these things, but now I see. Okay, that it wasn't mum's fault, it wasn't dad's fault. She left because of these things. I see that. It wasn't about me. Okay, I felt abandoned, but, you know, because we're not blaming here, all right? We're just understanding. We're going to stop blaming here, okay? With your adult understanding and with inspirations from God, can you address the situation? Can you see the situation differently, okay? So explain to your younger self. Sometimes your younger self needed some explanation. So if mum went away and you didn't understand and nobody explained to you why and what happened, it's time. It's time to explain to her, okay, why. If something happened and you think, I don't understand this, this is the time that you teach and help your younger self understand. Even though now as an adult, yeah, you get it, but speak to that child. Resolve it with that child at that age. So this is super important. This is the time that you unpack and give yourself permission to explore. Don't be afraid. You're strong enough, okay? So think of this luggage, things that you have carried around all your life, things that haven't been resolved, you know, you haven't had closure and you're just adding to that luggage. So you're opening that luggage up and you're saying, why is this here? Why did I think this? What was my thoughts? And then when you find that answer, you can ask why again. And why did I believe that? You know, and what's the core belief? Because you're looking for false beliefs. You're looking for the thoughts. Yes, you have these negative feelings, but we're not stopping there. We use that as a clue to help us identify what it is that I'm thinking. Okay, look at my thinking pattern. So for example, when I was 12, I was doing well in school. Out of 8 subjects, I came first in 7 subjects. And one of the girls in my class was my friend, and she started to be very jealous of me. I was achieving for my personal best so that my parents can be proud of me. But somehow my achievement affected this girl, and this girl started spreading rumors about me with the class. And, you know, it was very hurtful, and I didn't understand why she was doing that. And I never resolved that, okay? I just kind of ignored it, felt hurt, and just kept on going. As an adult, when I was achieving and doing well in my business, I stopped and I sabotaged myself. I just couldn't let myself win. And one of my friends helped me do childhood regression, and she said, what happened at 12? You know, something that happened at 12 set the pattern for what's happening now. And I told her that story about this girl who was mean to me. So I developed a belief at that time that I didn't realize I did. And I realized that the belief was, when I succeed, other people will be mean to me. So it was a false belief. It's a silly belief, but I unpacked it. I realized, oh, I haven't resolved that with that child. The 12-year-old child is still fearful of success because she might make somebody mad at her. Okay, and so I resolved it and I said, well, Jade, it's okay to succeed. That's her choice. That's their choice. It had nothing to do with you. Okay, you weren't out there to hurt them. You were only doing your personal best so mum and dad can be proud. All right, so continue to do your personal best. You don't answer to those people. So when I resolved that as an adult, I let myself achieve some more. Whatever it is that you're missing, that you need at that time, give yourself permission to have it, okay? If you needed a hug, if you needed something, give yourself the fundamental human needs. You know the fundamental human needs, right? You need love, you need belonging, you need to be significant and important, you need variety, you need to have freedom to choose. Okay, so if any of those needs are not met, right, you need to meet those needs now. Okay, allow that child to experience it. So let me give you some examples. I was doing a session with a gentleman from South Africa, and he needed rose oil. Rose oil is about divine love, fatherly love, God's love for you. And he smelt it and he's like, I can't smell it. He took a sniff of the rose oil and he said to me, I can't smell it. And his wife was sitting 2 meters away from him and she's like, I can smell it from here. And he says, can't smell it. And I asked him, do you work very, very hard and feel like even then you're not blessed and loved? And he says, yes. And so I realized we need to do some childhood regression. So we went back to his childhood. I think it was 6 or 7. Anyways, that summer his father asked him to help on the farm. And he helped his father. And his father promised him at the end of summer, the dad will be able to buy him a bike, a new bike. And this boy was so excited about this new bike. And he worked super hard to help dad the whole summer. And at the end of the summer, the dad didn't give him a bike. They couldn't afford it. So on the outside, he was okay with it. But on the inside, he created a false belief. He created the belief that he needs to work hard. And even then, he might not be blessed. He might not be loved. And the bike represented love for him. So we resolved it. We addressed it. So in his mind, he got his bike. He got to ride his bike. All right, and it was just so beautiful to watch and so liberating because this child was still waiting for his bike. So I told him, go ahead and ride your bike. Go ahead and show off your bike to your friends. Okay, do the things that you wanted to do. Please believe that God loves you and that your efforts are sufficient and that He blesses you abundantly. So anyways, a week after that session, the wife came up to me at church and she's like, Jade, I have a new husband. He's so soft and tender now. Wow, that was great, wasn't it? Another example with a lady I did a session with, we went back to very early years, I think 2 or 3. And I asked this lady, where were you and what were you doing? And she said she was in her bedroom. She explained that her parents were young and they weren't ready to be parents yet. So they didn't want to deal with her. They fed her and kept her alive, but they locked her up in her room so that they didn't have to entertain her and take care of her or whatever. So she was kept in her bedroom for years. I asked her how she felt and she expressed all the feelings that she was feeling, and we wrote it down and we cried together. So when we came up to the step where we addressed the issue, I asked her what she wanted. What does that child need? And she said, that child needs the door open. And so I said, go ahead and open that door. And then I said, what else? And she says, that child wants to be taken outside to the park. And I said, go outside to the park with her. And then I said, what else? And she said, that child wants to go away from those parents, as far away as possible, into the mountains, where she can be free. And I said, do that. Take her to the mountains. So in her mind, she took herself to the mountains. And she felt happy and she felt free. And then a few months after that session, she actually took her kids to the mountains and had a holiday there. So that was awesome. Another example is of a little 7-year-old boy who was bullied at school, pushed in the mud, and then because he was dirty, he was bullied on the bus. And when he came home, he had his nanny there, but he really wanted his parents. So he had to wash himself somehow. He didn't know exactly how to do it properly. And when his parents came home, he went to his mother and asked the mum to read him a story. Because what this boy really wanted was some love and understanding and attention. Someone to tell him that he's okay, all right, and comfort him from his experience in that day. But he didn't explain that to his parents. He couldn't. He didn't know how. All he wanted to do was have them read a story to him. And that story reading represented, I care for you and I love you, okay? But his mum told him, son, you're a big boy, go to bed. And it broke his heart. and he felt rejected. So as an adult, he went back in time. He picked that boy up from the dirt, from the mud. He rode with that boy on the bus so that he didn't get bullied. He helped that boy wash and bathe and clean his body properly. He tucked that boy in bed and he read to that boy. He told that boy that he was handsome, that he was loved. And he explained to the boy that mum and dad was tired, that they didn't know. They didn't know what happened to him. It was so beautiful to watch how this man gave himself, his younger self, what he wanted. And that was all he wanted. He wanted someone to clean him, to pick him up, to tell him he was a good boy, to tell him that he was handsome, to understand. He wanted somebody to tell him that he was loved. So the last example I want to share with you is when I was in the refugee camp. I spent 2 years in the refugee camp in Malaysia. And you can imagine it was dirty and there was too many people and everyone was living together in a cramped space. So I went back there. I explored the feelings that I had and I didn't realize some of the needs that I had. So I actually needed to have my own space. I actually needed some breathing room. So in my mind, I went back and addressed it. I allowed myself to carve out a corner in that tent that was mine, that nobody else was allowed to enter. I was allowed to decorate that space and make it my own. As an adult, I understand why I need so much space and so much freedom, because I didn't feel like I had it then. I hope you can see how powerful this technique is. Okay, so whatever it is that you needed, give that to yourself in your mind and allow yourself to have closure and understand why you needed that. For the South African man, it wasn't about the bike. The bike represented love. For the boy, the book reading wasn't about the book or the story. It was about being understood, somebody who cared and loved him. For that woman, the mountains represented freedom. It wasn't about the mountain. It represented that she was free, that she was allowed to do what she wanted to do. For me, that space, it represented that I had freedom. It represented that I had choice. The last step is appreciate and accept. Sometimes people come up to me and tell me, I've done a lot of childhood regression and I feel like I've healed from everything, and they're surprised that this still comes up. There's still many reasons why we need to still revisit it, even if you feel like you've done a lot of work already. And the main reason I feel is because we haven't fully appreciated and accepted the situation that we experienced, accepted that as part of us, okay, and appreciated God's hands in our situation. Okay, and that's why it still needs a little bit more work, okay. In my energy balancing sessions, sometimes people say, well, you know, that situation is horrible, super bad, and there's nothing good that I could see in it. But I truly believe there's always a silver lining in every situation that we have. God will consecrate our efforts for good. He will consecrate this situation for good. There's something there. There must be a reason that we went through that experience. God didn't let us suffer for no reason. Okay, He's a loving, caring Heavenly Father who is in the details of our lives. So we must go back and see His hands. And when we do, we will truly experience the fullness of healing that God has prepared for us. We will feel whole. If you have a hard time appreciating what happened to you, go ahead and make friends with spikenard. So if spikenard smells good for you, then you're well on your way to being able to appreciate the experiences that you had. If spikenard stinks to you, go ahead and keep working on feeling appreciation for your situations, okay? Until that oil smells great. So that when it smells bad, people say it smells like stinky feet. When it smells good, people say it smells like dark chocolate and berries. So I will use myself as an example. So this is not me, but I was in a very similar situation. I was pulled up by a net like this at the oil rig when our boat was saved, and we were taken to the refugee camps. As a child, I had a lot of traumas, watching death and pain and suffering. I spent 2 years in the refugee camp, and I had PTSD from that experience. And looking back, I was able to accept that that was a refining experience for me. I was able to experience the depth of sorrow and pain and trauma. And because of that, now I can understand people more fully and feel their pains more deeply. I feel courage. I feel courage to be able to help people go into the depth of their sorrows and face their problems, because they're not alone. I'm there with them. This experience inspires me and gives me motivation to reach out to more people. It stops me from being lazy. I saw that other children died, but I didn't. I survived, and so I have a second chance of life. And I promised myself I would not waste this second chance. I want to be able to help as many people as I can in my life. I want my life to be meaningful. This experience helped me be brave in taking risks. It helped me relate to people, and it helped me care. So there's so many things. And when I look back, the feelings of gratitude and acceptance, surrendering to God's will, is more powerful than the pains I felt. And so I experience a higher level of joy now because I allowed myself to go into the depth of sorrow. From the depth of your sorrow, you'll be able to have the capacity to have the equal and opposite height of joy. Okay, so that is wonderful. There's so many lessons to learn. Keep finding that silver lining in your story and your situation. Okay, please allow me to share some stories with you to inspire you. I have 3 examples today. This is Christina Noble, this is Viktor Frankl, and this is Immaculée Ilibagiza. Christina Noble was an Irish orphan. She was separated from her family, and her siblings were all put in different orphanages. She suffered homelessness, gang rape, and she was pregnant from that. And then her child was stolen from her, and she had all sorts of marital abuses. But in all that pain, she still kept the faith, and God inspired her. She kept having dreams and visions of homeless children in Vietnam. So one day she decided to go to Vietnam, and she discovered her mission. So you can read about her story in her book, but because of her work, she created the Christina Noble Foundation. Her book is called Bridges Across My Sorrow, and there's a movie on Amazon about her called Noble. And it's very inspiring. Someone that has gone through so much pain was able to turn that pain into passion and serve the world. To this day, she helped about 1 million homeless children. So I love and admire this woman. Viktor Frankl, he was a Holocaust survivor. He had friends and family die in the concentration camp. But in that situation, he was able to learn some truths, and he was able to share that truth with people. He wrote many books, and these are some of them. Okay, so Yes to Life, Man's Search for Ultimate Meaning, The Unheard Cry for Meaning. All right, he was the one that coined between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is your freedom to choose. Okay, so no matter what happens to you, you actually still have the freedom to choose your response. His words inspire me and help me recognize that I have the power to choose in any situation. I don't have to feel that negative emotion. I don't have to react and respond and act in a negative way and cause negative results in my life. Okay, I can stop, unpack, and discover what it is that I'm choosing that is affecting me. I feel so empowered to be able to intentionally choose my thoughts and my beliefs so that I can change how I feel and then change how I act. So his words add to me and inspire me. He could feel sorry for himself that his family and friends have died and suffered and lived, a drunken life. But no, he turned his pain into passion. Immaculée Ilibagiza is one of the survivors of a most gruesome genocide in Rwanda. She wrote the story Left to Tell and Our Lady of Kibeho, and she wrote The Boy Who Met Jesus. In her sorrows, she was able to find God and forgiveness. Her pain was turned into passion, and she continues to share this passion with the world, spreading the message of healing and of faith and forgiveness. So can you see how powerful that is? Once you learn how to do this childhood technique, don't wait till you master it, okay? You can go ahead and help others. Use cedarwood and marjoram oil to help you connect to other people. Our empathic powers help us connect to others, help them feel like they're not alone, okay? And go through this with them, okay? It's very powerful. It's one of the most powerful gifts that you can give to your friends and family. I'm going to go through some of the ages to help you perhaps ask the right questions, to help you explore some of the things that might be a concern for those ages, okay? The developmental ages. Prior to conception is a time before we were born on earth. I truly believe that we lived in heaven before, that we were preparing to come down to earth. You watch these parents that you're going to come to, okay? And you might have some sort of anxiety and stress, prior to that. So go ahead and explore this time, okay? Just muscle test the different emotions or the oils that come up and explore that, okay? If you muscle test conception to birth, remember you can test the different weeks or the different months while you're in the womb, okay? So there's a lot of things that can happen. So in the womb, your mom could have been stressed, something could have happened, and you felt her pains. Or 1 in 8 pregnancies are twin pregnancies. Ask if there's a possibility that you might have had a vanished twin. Some of the symptoms of surviving twins are feeling guilty, undeserving of blessings, feeling like a failure before you start, feeling lost and not at peace, feeling abandoned, feeling rejected, feeling like you're going to disappoint people. If you want to learn more about that, you can read a book called My Twin Vanished, Did Yours? By Dr. Brent H. Babcock. And if you take my course, you'll be able to learn more about that. And we have weekly meetings where we discuss more information and explore more about these things. So conception to birth, some of the possible issues, the mother's feelings. If the mother wasn't ready, if it was a shotgun wedding, who knows, okay? Ask and explore, okay? Do you feel wanted or unwanted? Okay, if the mother was unsure, sometimes you feel rejected. Feelings of rejection is very common during this time as well. And there's a possibility that you could be a twin. Was your birth a traumatic birth or was it an easy birth? Okay, were you born early? Were you born premature or were you born late? There was a lady who was born premature. She had a hard time keeping jobs and even staying married. So she went to a person who was able to do hypnosis for her, and she went back to the time that she was born. And the practitioner asked her about that situation, and all of a sudden she said, I wasn't finished, I wasn't done. Okay, so because she wasn't finished and she wasn't done, she set a tone for her life. She wasn't done with anything. She can't be done. So now we have something that we can resolve. So if you were born late and you cause a lot of pain for your mom or whatever it is, as an adult, you feel like you're slow at things and you're behind or whatever the belief is that you may have created, okay? We can heal and we can change. Another thing that is traumatic that you may not be aware of is circumcision. If you're working with boys, sometimes the circumcision is a trauma that they don't remember. Something was taken from them. It can cause them to be hyper-focused on their penis or sex. Okay, so explore that because that is a traumatic experience too. Okay, somebody doing a major surgery on their private parts. Okay, if you muscle test between 1 and 10, there's a few things that we can address here. Going to school, learning new things. Sometimes when a child does something bad, that child can't differentiate the bad behavior from being bad. So sometimes you believe that you're flawed, that you're broken, that you're a bad person, okay? How were mistakes treated in your home? Were you yelled at or beaten for every little mistake? Okay, did you feel bad and guilty? Because sometimes as adults, we beat ourselves up, we're mean to ourselves, we're angry with ourselves when we make any little mistakes. As a child, my dad was beaten, and he vowed to himself that he would never hurt his children. So as a child growing up with my dad, he never hit us. But if I made a mistake, a big mistake, he would tell me, "I am disappointed in you." And just those words alone broke my heart and made me so sad. So as an adult now, when I tell myself, "Oh, I'm disappointed in you," I get sad. But that's okay, because I don't beat myself up and try to abuse my body. Okay, I truly believe that the natural consequence of mistakes is sufficient. In my home with my children, when they make mistakes, I try to tell them this is good, this is part of learning. Okay, keep making as many mistakes as you need to learn the lessons that you need to. Okay, keep trying. How are achievements and efforts acknowledged? Sometimes parents don't acknowledge their children when they're doing great. Okay, and sometimes you don't feel accepted or safe or cared for because nobody really gave you some attention. And now as an adult, you want a lot of attention, okay? So address that and explore that. Did you feel heard? Was your opinions heard? Did you feel like you mattered, okay? And there's issues with, at this age, children have issues with people and object permanence. That means if something is missing, something goes away, they don't know that it's still there, that it still exists, right? And sometimes you feel like it's gone for good, and you feel this sense of despair. The birth order is important as well, okay? Were you the oldest child and you were told that you had to take care of everyone, take care of your siblings, and be the mature one? Explore those things. If you were the youngest or the middle child, explore those ages, okay? All right, so that is from 1 to 10. So from 11 to 20, this is the time to solidify identity. Who are you? Do you have a personality? Do you know yourself? Okay, puberty is a big deal. All of these things that are budding and growing, and some women feel very ashamed of their periods, ashamed of their breasts. Some men are ashamed that they have erections, that they have wet dreams. So explore those things. I've done sessions on women who share with me their experience when they got their periods. Some people felt ashamed. Some people felt like they were diseased and that they were dying and that were going to bleed to death. And they were so confused and dirty. So explore that. In my family, my husband and I tried to make puberty a positive experience. We teach our children about their bodies and what to look forward to. We don't want to leave it to the school or leave it to their friends who equally don't have the experience and knowledge, okay? So as my children grew up and, they budded and blossomed, when my oldest daughter started to blossom and had breasts and I had to buy bras for them, the younger sisters kept checking to see if that was happening for them as well, and they just couldn't wait. They tried on bras even though their breasts haven't grown yet, but they looked forward to it, and we talked about it openly. I just wanted to avoid a lot of the shame and the negative energy around puberty for my children. At this age, we try to belong and fit in, right? And sometimes we don't know the difference between belonging and fitting in. Belonging is a fundamental human need. We want to be a part of a community, and all of us need to feel a part of the community, that we are important, that we have a significant role in the world. That means you understand yourself. That means you know how you contribute to the community and society. But fitting in means you change yourself. You don't know who you are, okay? And you're just trying to be like everyone else. And that's fitting in. And we don't need to fit in. And sometimes at this age, the kids think that they need to fit in when they actually need to just feel belonging. Okay, so you can explain that to yourself or to your children, that we don't need to fit in and change ourselves and be like everyone else to be happy, because we won't be happy. We'll be conforming and not happy with ourselves. during these years. Anything during these years could be related to your roles and responsibilities. What are girls' roles? What are boys' roles? Okay, we do have some unique roles, but it's your interpretation of your roles. Explore what you've decided how men should be and women should be. Okay, and understand yourself better and be free to change your interpretation and your roles. During this time, you have your first loves and your first crushes and maybe rejections and experiences of acceptance or non-acceptance from your friends. Okay, so you can go back to this time and explore it. Otherwise, some adults, they act like teenagers still. Even if they're in their 50s or 60s, sometimes they act like teenagers. They want to be accepted, and the things they do is crazy, but it's all because they haven't resolved some of the things during this age. Okay, we need to learn how to accept ourselves. We need to be able to have a personality. We need to understand that we belong, and we need to clarify our roles. So yes, there's a lot of things here to think about. I have a few suggestions of essential oils that you can use when you do this childhood regression technique. Or if these oils come up for you, you can use this opportunity to do some childhood regression. So if ylang-ylang came up for you, it's the oil that helps you have more childlike play and joy. You may have grown up too soon. You may have lost your childhood. Okay, so now is an opportunity for you to play as an adult. Okay, allow yourself to play and explore. Go back in time and allow your younger self to play and explore. Like my friend, her parents weren't mature. They were alcoholics, and she was forced to take care of her parents when they were drunk. She had to learn how to drive early and illegally to get her parents home. For me, I felt like I had to help my mum take care of my brother. So I was a good girl. I tried to do everything the best I could. At 2, I had to sacrifice my treats, even though I really wanted it, and I had to take care of my brother so that my mum can do the things that she needed to do in the refugee camp. So I had to grow up early. So if you smell the ylang-ylang and it's yucky to you, explore your childhood, allow yourself to play. I used to feel guilty when I played, so redefine play for yourself, okay? Sell play to yourself so that you can play more and enjoy life more. Jasmine is about joy. As a child, sometimes if you are noisy and you're happy and you're laughing and the adults tell you, stop, be quiet, sit down, and suppress your joy. Okay, as adults, sometimes you don't allow yourself to have pleasure and joy. So explore that. So if red mandarin came up for you, then explore childhood excitement and wonder. Allow yourself to have that childhood excitement and wonder now. Do you have things to look forward to? Okay, find something to look forward to. Allow yourself to have wonder and curiosity about the world and about things. Okay, allow yourself to have that joy. So ask yourself questions like, what suppressed your excitement and wonder when you were younger? Okay, were you not allowed to make messes and play and experiment? Okay. Green mandarin is a beautiful oil about potential. You have so much potential that you haven't explored yet. So allow yourself to be that child and explore what else you can do in the world. What skills and gifts and talents have you not tapped into? It's not too late. For me as an adult, I had to explore things that I might be good at. So I tried to play piano and I really like it. I tried to paint and I really like that. So there's plenty of things that you can do to explore your potential. All right, the last oil here is forgive. If you are very critical and judgmental of yourself, that stops you from growing and changing because you're so afraid of making mistakes. Because every time you mess up, that voice inside of you tells you off and is critical of you, okay? And sometimes this is reflected in you being critical and judgmental of others. So now let's throw out that critic and employ a coach and cheerleader. So anytime you make mistakes, you forgive yourself and say, hey, it's okay, it's part of learning, and cheer yourself on. And if you are cheering yourself on, you're going to not have perfection paralysis. So my friend, forgive yourself. This life is about progression and change. And progression and change requires us to make mistakes as we move forward. Being unforgiving stops you from growing and changing. So let's not let that happen, okay? So I hope you enjoy these oils. Use these oils, and I know that you'll have a fantastic childhood regression session. Now, if you want some guidance and help, I can help you. Book a session with me and I can guide you along. We need some guidance when we first start. Sometimes there's so much to deal with and our mind is foggy and we just don't know where to start. It's totally okay. Go ahead and book a time with me, or you can book with one of the Earth Angel practitioners. So the link is there on the screen. If you enjoyed this video and you are curious and you want to learn more, please go to this link on my website and learn how to become an Earth Angel. That means you're part of a community of women with these skills that can help people resolve their emotional issues and be able to feel more empowered. This is a 7-week course. You get 10 weeks to do it. We will have weekly Q&As where we discuss it, and even after you graduate, we continue to meet and practice and explore. We will still be together. We will be a community forever. We will practice with each other and explore more facets and support one another. We have a private Facebook group where we communicate, and of course once you graduate you will have lifetime access, so you can watch and re-watch some of the lessons again, and you have an opportunity to become an Earth Angel practitioner. I will be able to put you on the directory on my website where people can book a time with you, and together we can help the world change. Before I end, if you would like to have a doTERRA wholesale account, go ahead and contact the person that shared this video with you, or if you don't have anybody, you can contact me and I'll hook you up with a wholesale account. doTERRA is a wonderful company with integrity and honesty. The wholesale membership is only $35 and you can buy everything at wholesale price, which is 25% off all year long. The renewal is $25 and you get a free peppermint oil valued at $27. You have a website where you log in and buy everything wholesale. If you pick an enrollment kit, a starter kit, your $35 membership fee is waived. And if you don't know what kit is best for you, go ahead and contact your friends who are in doTERRA or me, and I'll help make good suggestions. Okay, thank you so much for spending time with me. Please comment below, share with me what you think of this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask your questions. Please like, follow, and friend me on Facebook and Instagram. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I pray that you'll be able to resolve some of your childhood concerns and live a healthier, happier, holier life. That's all from me for today. Thank you so much. Take care and bye for now.